Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering Ted Lasso, Season 2, Episode 11, Midnight Train to Royston. This is a real struggle of a name, Ted Lasso. In this episode, Dr. Sharon takes her leave in a way that Ted does not appreciate until he winds up actually kind of appreciating it. And Nate welcome to Unspoiled. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn.
All right.
Hey, Joyce is here.
Joyce, hi.
Hey.
We're talking about Nate out the gate.
We're just going to jump right into it.
Before we kick his ass back through that gate into the street and lock it behind him.
So I had asked you a couple of episodes ago to just kind of keep an eye on Nate.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I checked in. I think I remember to check in. And so far, there wasn't anything that you noticed about him, that stood out or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to ask again, anything?
Standing out about him?
Like, just like noticing anything that's different. Did anything catch your eye and be like, huh? Or,
No.
So it's a subtle thing, and now that,
I feel like we talked about his wearing a suit and stuff, but
we did.
But
so
I don't know if you mean it's something else.
There is another very subtle thing that's been happening with Nate this season. And I was just curious if you would notice it. He's graying, how much grayer he is.
I noticed his gray this episode, but I just figured it was a thing that had been there, and I just failed to notice until this time because they're so focused on his. We have a lot more close-ups of him, I feel like, than we have had.
Yeah,
but
he has been going grayer and grayer throughout the season. And there was a comment, he shared with us in one episode that he is terrified of aging. Remember when he talks about how he doesn't take baths because he doesn't like to get wrinkly?
Mm-hmm.
So then that led to a conversation of what's going on. Is he deciding to stop dyeing his hair? Because he had been so afraid of getting older, and also the idea that the job he was doing as a professional was sort of a kid's job, because Will is quite young. I'm not saying a kid job, like being a kit man for a professional team is like a real thing you got to do. But I'm assuming that there's a sort of thought process that it's a very like kind of lower level entry, more of a young person's gig.
Sure. Like a ball boy.
Yeah, well,
Kramer as the ball boy. Do you remember that episode?
Yeah, I absolutely do. And so that maybe he was dyeing his hair to look younger than he was in his position, but now that he is seeing himself, moving up, he has decided to stop, dyeing his hair, and I just thought, so nothing like earth shattering, but just a little thing that the show did, and the show doesn't ever really talk about it, but it's a choice that they made that I thought was really interesting. And
it's funny that I did notice it, but I just didn't think it was new.
Yeah.
This is something that happens a lot in like murder mysteries that I watch as well. There'll be something that I'm like, oh, I didn't notice that was there. I probably just didn't notice. And then later it'll be like, no, that was a major piece of evidence that was suddenly planted there. And you just fucking acted like it was there the whole time because you don't trust yourself. Yeah. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I noticed it fairly early on in season 2 when I first watched. And I wasn't sure, like, am I? But I watched the episode so many times that I would like finish the season and go right back to the beginning.
Mhm.
So I was able to get confirmation pretty early. Like, oh wait, no, that is definitely something that's happening. Over the course of the series. So yeah, let's talk about it, ma'am.
All right. So this episode, we've got Nate champing a little bit at the "I want more credit" bit. And he does this in front of Roy and Beard, who both seem mildly shocked. There's just a sort of energy that comes off of them as if they are so surprised at his behavior that they don't really know how to respond, which is why Beard winds up like doing the trees don't compete for sunlight. And Nate is like, can you just give me an actual answer? And Roy says, I think he did. And I was like, yeah, they're trying to be tactful, Nate.
Yeah.
And
they're trying not to call you an asshole to your face is what they're trying to do.
Can I just tell you guys how much I fucking related to Nate in this moment, and I hate this? How many times people had tried in my life, looking back, I realized, to tactfully tell me to stop being a raging cunt. And I wasn't getting it because they didn't just say to my face to stop being a raging cunt. So they were being tactful. And I was simply going, I don't really get why that's relevant to what we were just talking about, but fine. I mean, we can talk about that if you want. I don't really get it. And yeah, this moment where he's just like, can't you just give me a straight answer? That was exactly the energy I would have. Be like, I don't, just say the thing. Mm-hmm. And they felt they had. And they just didn't want to be. And I didn't get it because I am somebody who will just say the thing. And oddly, as it happens, which is very common, as somebody who will just say the thing, I am awfully not good at having the thing just said to me.
Funny how that works, isn't
it's really weird. I work really well with people who are direct, but I can be thin-skinned AF. So I think people knew that and were trying to talk around stuff because they were aware I didn't take criticism super well, but I also didn't pick up on metaphor. So they were just like, all right, I wash my hands of her. I'm sorry. I have really tried being direct and indirect and both things don't work. So looking back, there were a lot of people that I like just sort of fell out of contact with. And I'm like looking at it now like, oh, I just wasn't fucking like hearing anything. And it's quite embarrassing.
I love that self-awareness though. I do. I'm here for it.
It's fine. Self-awareness is such a ball breaker.
It really is. We stand a self-aware queen.
Self-aware asterisk. Self-aware about myself 10 years ago. Is my self-awareness here today?
Ma'am.
Who knows?
It's got like a delay, like a fucking 30-second delay, like when you're on live TV. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, this moment, they're just like both, and it's so frustrating because I have seen them react to things Nate has said several times, and every time people are like, whoa, where'd that come from? It's happened 20 times, guys. It shouldn't be that much of a shock anymore. Mm-hmm. And you just aren't getting to know Nate at all in a real way. So you just keep acting like he is the person that you thought from the first half of season 1, and you're not catching on to the fact that he is consistently showing you who he is, and you're just straight up not choosing to like see that. I don't know what's up with that. I don't know if it's like everybody thinks somebody else is going to be the one to say something, or that he manages to be so like so self-effacing so much of the time that people are afraid to criticize because he doesn't take that shit well at all. I don't know what it is, but it's like really strange at this point that people are exchanging looks with each other like, what the fuck? And I'm like, this isn't new at this point.
Right. I think that the scene with Keely is really telling because Keely, of course, is different than the other coaches. She's not witnessed Nate's bad behavior firsthand like Beard and Roy have. Well, mostly Beard. So we understand, it makes sense to us why Keely still has all of this goodwill towards him, because she hasn't really seen anything personally that would say that Nate is not who she thinks that he is, and is not, maybe not the man that she first met last season. But when you see the scene with Keely, and then you see how Beard and Roy continue to be around Nate, I think you might be onto something where there is I don't know if denial is the right word, because they acknowledge the Nate nonsense in the moment when it happens, but there is this decision that's been made for reasons the show doesn't really explicitly say, where, one, we're not going to tell Ted.
Right.
They haven't on screen, at least. No one has been like, hey, Ted, this is what's been happening, you know? And a few times we've seen Ted ask, like, is it something that I should know? They explicitly are like, nah, don't worry about it. So Ted is really the only character that gets to be surprised.
I don't agree with that, though. We see Ted react to things that Nate says a lot.
Yeah?
Yeah, like a few times. And it's he does the same thing where he's like, that's weird, and gets this kind of like, look, and then we just breeze on past it.
I'm trying to think of like, when I think of Nate's particular bad behavior, I'm thinking about the way he treated Colin, the way he treated Will. What kind of moments are you thinking of?
I mean, the most recent one was him saying that I would like to be a tiger and rip the face off anybody who looks at me wrong. But, and it's not like, so I'm not talking about bad behavior where he's like being offensive to somebody.
I think we're talking about two different things.
Yeah, I'm talking about his indication from his attitude regarding kind of like innocuous topics, that he has some very strong anger issues that are right under the surface, and Ted keeps being surprised by it and not addressing it. The way that he is with what's the name of the kid that does the kit now? Will. Nobody has really seen that, have they? Nobody's witnessed that.
The most egregious behavior where he like takes the jersey and threatens him and all that stuff that no one saw, but we've seen him talk about how inept Will is.
Yes,
a bunch of times in front of everybody.
Right.
Like Ted was there for those moments, a lot of those moments where he talks about the lavender and the sport drink and you know things like that.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just like I could see it flying less under, like slightly, flying under
the radar.
Ted's radar. That's Jesus fucking Christ, y'all. I was talking about this before we started, and it is about to be bad. My words help.
What just happened?
Even though it could be under his radar, like he has slightly more of an excuse, I still don't really feel like he has one, because the way that Nate was acting about that innocuous stuff was so completely out of proportion. And I do judge Beard for hearing the way he spoke to Colin and not sharing that with Ted. I feel like that is a major violation of somebody who is like fairly new to this position at this point. And he is a coach, so he is in power over Colin, and it's inexcusable to have this attitude. And like, yeah, he apologizes, but it doesn't mean that it shouldn't be mentioned.
Right. And I don't want to I know we're going to spend a lot of time talking about Nate. Because I am not a person that ever participated in any sort of team sport, and have only limited experience as a fan of professional sports, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
One of the things that came up, and I stayed out of the conversation, but I found them really intriguing to just listen to,
Okay.
is in the group, in like the different Ted Lasso groups I was in,
Mm-hmm.
people who participated in sports at sort of higher levels, like, well, not high levels, but like high school, and some people that participated in college sports.
Right.
They all started to share stories of how their coaches dealt with them.
Mm.
And real talk, I would not let my child join a team sport after reading. Like, it
That
is
does
some
not
of the
surprise
most
me.
horrific shit. I mean, people were just like, you know, and they were like, some of them were acknowledging that it was kind of fucked up, but a lot of them, the majority of them, really viewed these incidences like, it made me better.
Mm-hmm.
It made me stronger.
I needed to hear it.
I needed to hear it. So, and this is not me trying to make excuses for the show, because I really don't know what the show is trying to, you know what I mean? The show is set in a sports world, but it's not really about the sport, you know?
Yeah.
So it's a weird line. But some of the shit that people were sharing, I could not believe an adult would talk to someone like that.
Yeah.
And so the point they were trying to make was that what Nate does to Colin, people were like, oh man, that was nothing. One time my coach said blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
So they were trying to be like, maybe that's why, like, Beard didn't take it super seriously and think that an intervention was necessary, and that Nate was out of line, you know. And one of the things somebody kept mentioning was one of the things Beard tells Nate about the thing with Colin,
Mm-hmm.
it's not so much that what you said was wrong, it was, but it was also weirdly personal.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if you were being this aggressive and this rude and this mean in an attempt to get him to be a better player, that would have been okay.
Mm.
But what you're doing right now is weird and personal, and that's not, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it just was just an interesting perspective, because I often would watch that scene and be like, how are they not telling Nate he doesn't have a job anymore?
Yeah.
And everyone was like, this is nothing. That little fucking talk down was nothing.
Yeah, and I think that, like, it's when he says it was personal, we can really compare it against him saying, do you wax your pubes? Then why are you playing like a fucking Brazilian? Which is like, it's a vulgar thing to say, and it's aggressive, but it's not personal in any way. It's about his play style purely, and it's a totally different energy. And it was also in front of everybody, because he knew, I think, the difference in what he was saying, and he was by himself with Colin only, and so he felt he could get away with the thing because he didn't know Beard was there. I fully expect if he knew Beard were listening, he would not have said any of that.
Agreed. Agreed.
But
because he's still very much a coward.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I don't feel like that's the type of coaching the show would ever tolerate. So it doesn't feel like that's, you know, I get what people are trying to say with their sharing their stories, but it doesn't really feel like the kind of energy that Beard or Ted would be cool with, because that's not the style of coaching they do. So the fact that this wouldn't be shared with Ted after feels out of character to me. I don't know if out of character is right, but it feels wrong. I'll say that. Beard is so private about so much. So, you know, he just keeps weird shit to himself for no reason. But but yeah, so he expresses this and says something about how, like, we need to try this False Nine is the name of this play. Explains it to Ted, who doesn't know what it is. And then when Ted leaves, Nate gets really irritated and is like, we're going to do this and it's going to work and he's going to get all the credit. And the thing is, that I do kind of appreciate, the show isn't trying to suddenly walk back the fact that Ted doesn't know shit about soccer. You know, he's a good coach because he knows how to handle people, but he doesn't get the sport still. And what Nate suggests to him, it feels very much like yeah, all right, bud, we'll just do whatever you're saying because I believe that you know what you're doing. Not that Ted sees the play and really understands where the idea came from, and you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So his frustration with like not getting credit when Ted just still doesn't know a lot, I can understand being resentful of that. But as Roy says, that's the job.
Yeah. One of the things, there was a moment in last week's episode where we see Rupert whispering in Nate's ear.
Yeah.
And then we move right to this episode and we get this reveal that is, Nate has gone to Trent as an anonymous source to out Ted's panic attacks.
Yeah.
Do you think do you think it's spurred on by anything that Rupert may have said? Do you think it's just
my assumption of what Rupert said when this episode began the way it did was that he was saying something to Nate about how I bet you did a lot of plays that didn't get credit, or just it basically.
I know you're the real reason that they're doing so well.
Yeah, not anything specific, like maybe if you got Ted out of the way, you could see your way to being head coach or something, like nothing that overt.
Right. Oh, Rupert
but
would
planting,
never.
but planting the idea that like everybody is, nobody sees you, but I see you, and you deserve more. I mean, that will speak to a person who has the exact kind of insecurities that Nate has. And like we said, then Rupert's a predator, and he knows
I was just about to say Rupert would see that a mile away, right?
He is a manipulator, and like people who are good at that, it starts to be fucking automatic. They don't even notice they're doing it. It's just so, it's the way they live, is moving people around. So, and it would not surprise me at all if it took very little to get Nate to begin to have this attitude, because he was already like 3/4 of the way there.
That's the thing about Nate that I think was the most impactful for me, was that this was a man who was already ready to pop off. He was already on the edge. And he gets this incredible opportunity, feels seen for the first time in his life, and has like a fork in the road, which way is this going to go for him? And he's so needy because he is so insecure, which, I can low-key kind of relate to.
Same.
That he needs constant validation, constant affirmation, and when it's not available, when he doesn't get it, he spirals into this very negative behavior, because he is someone who doesn't like himself.
Yep.
Because he wasn't raised to like himself, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And when you see how it ends with him betraying the team and being this source and outing Ted, even though it is a lot of fun to hate him, because you need somebody, like you gotta have somebody to talk shit about. But it was, for me personally, so sad.
It's super sad.
It's so fucking sad.
Yeah.
It like broke my heart that this is how that went. It was so sad.
Yeah. This, all right. For first, let's talk about him going with Keely to get the suit.
Yeah.
Because she's going to be finding clothing for this shoot she's going to do. She's going to be in Vanity Fair's like business
Big
edition.
Deal.
Yeah.
Independent woman.
I love that. And so he needs a suit, and he asks her for help, and she's like, well, let's go right now, which clearly catches him off guard. And I knew it was coming because of the way it's framed. It's so clear. And I was like, it was a little annoying, to be honest, because I felt like Keely is not an idiot, and she would be aware of the vibe in this moment and wouldn't take a full 8 minutes to straighten his collar.
Yeah.
Like, it just felt like they lingered in this space for so long. And it took too long, to be honest. But she is so encouraging. She is so positive about him and comparing him to her, and the two of them being ambitious and being capable. And it's obvious, like, he feels himself when he's around her in a way he doesn't with anybody else. And it completely, like, takes his head, and he just loses it for a minute and kisses her, immediately realizes, like, this was not the move. But it's so obviously not about her.
Yeah.
Is the part that I found really, like, sad, you know? It's about how she makes him feel about himself.
Mm-hmm. And he has said over the course of the series many times how wonderful he thinks she is. And it's never felt to me, and maybe I'll be interested in what you think about it. He has been very complimentary to Keely throughout the series. But I always took it as being, he doesn't really, it's not about like wanting to be with her, wanting to fuck her.
Mm-mm.
He really just thinks she's fabulous and she's so kind and she's so nice and, you know, just makes everybody feel good. It was like a genuine appreciation. And to your point, he likes the way he feels when he's around her, because she does make people feel good. This fucking kiss.
It's so...
As he's dressed up as Roy Kent.
Right. That was like... I don't think that I quite realized until he stepped away. And then I suddenly was like, oh, no. But yeah, and plus I think he maybe misread her, like, joking about how much Roy hates doing this. As her complaining about Roy to him and like, oh, well, she could be with somebody like me, you know, that kind of fantasy moment where if you really stopped and asked him, he would realize, like, that's not what she meant at all. But he is getting carried away in his head.
I love that you called it a fantasy, because this whole shopping trip at this very, very posh place that is so outside of his budget. It's like, and, you know, they're having drinks. It is sort of a fantasy moment.
Yeah,
you know?
Most definitely. Yeah, so she is trying to tell him not to worry about it. Of course, that is never going to happen. He goes back into the dressing room, spits in his own face as he does.
Yeah, I don't love this. I don't love that.
Yeah, the spitting in his own face is truly just, ain't it, Chief? And we, like, I don't feel like we see much of him for the remainder of the episode after that. What do we see of him?
We don't.
Okay, so it's just the reveal about Trent Krim, who texts Ted to warn him this is going up tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's about his panic attack, and says from an anonymous source, I have to say that, but as somebody who respects you, it was Nate.
Yeah.
And to which I say, Trent, I respect that you had to write this. I don't like it, but fine. I really do appreciate you tattling. Really.
What do you think is going to happen to Trent? Like, I don't, you know, there was, okay, I'm going to lie because I ended up Googling it after the episode, but I was not familiar with the rules of journalism. Like, I know the rules here. We have very strict rules about protecting a source and you never give it up. I'm not really sure what the rules are in the UK around that. You know, you can lose your job in the US.
Right. I really don't know, because I don't know how direct Ted is going to be about knowing who it was. You know, it depends. Is he going to go straight to Nate and be like, what the fuck? Is he going to call a meeting with all the coaches and be like, somebody violated my trust, and be very, like, pointed but not say, because there's only these few people who even know. So it wouldn't be out of the question for him to handle it that way, because it's like it's a secret from pretty much everyone except his closest coworkers.
Yeah, it's you know, Rebecca knows, Dr. Sharon knows, the other coaches know, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and we know Dr. Sharon would never, because she would like lose her license, and Rebecca would never because she doesn't want the team to fail anymore.
Yeah.
And otherwise, it's just these three dudes. So I feel like if he handled it that way, it would, my real question at that point is, what does Nate do when put in the position where Ted is like, literally nobody else knows? I haven't told anyone.
What do you
It
think?
had to have been one of you three.
Do you think Nate just doesn't say anything and prays that no one is like, it was you?
I feel like I feel like the Nate that we have been seeing would try and throw somebody else under the bus.
Oh,
but he can't. He can't, because there's no way for him to prove that anybody else said anything. So you would have to like set it up. And I don't think he ever would anticipate needing to do that. If he thought he saw it coming, he would, though. I think that he is in a place where he is really feeling like he has the right to get more respect and be in a position above Ted. And so if this is what it takes, then so be it.
Yeah.
I feel like, though, in the absence of being able to throw anyone else under the bus, he crumples. I feel like he just is a coward. And I don't see him being in a room with like Roy and Beard, who are so very who they are, and are like, I would never violate your trust like that. And hear the like heartbreak and disdain from them. I don't think he'd be able to withstand that and keep lying convincingly.
Yeah. Do you imagine, in your mind, is Nate contrite after, like, say he's discovered, or like, is he sorry, or does he double down? What do you think?
Don't think I think he's sorry, in that he knows what Ted has done for him, putting him in this putting him in this position, because Ted gave him a chance to be coach, saw his potential. But I think he will double down and be like, I don't even know how you have this job. And it would turn into a really spiteful thing, because he obviously holds a lot of resentment in general. And Ted is worthy of that resentment in that circumstance specifically, of like having been given a job explicitly because he was bad for it, and he still has the job. That does feel like it sucks to somebody who knows the game and is only the assistant coach. Like, I can understand that frustration. It's just that you're handling it in the worst possible, most underhanded, and just like, even if this weren't about a mental health thing, it's such a violation. But for it to also be something that's that delicate, that is just completely unforgivable, in my opinion. And I just can't even, like, again, I really hate how much I understand Nate. I really see what's going on with him in so many ways. It's really interesting, because I didn't come from a family that talked me down. So I have a lot of the same struggles as he does with self-image and needing constant validation, but it's because I grew accustomed to constant validation from parents. Well, really a mother who overpraised me. And then when I didn't get that, I was like, where is it? Well, what the fuck?
I had also like too much praise, but it had the like exact opposite effect on me.
How so?
I believed it was all lies. Don't believe any of it for a second.
That's weirdly where it goes for me. I want it, But when I get it, I'm just like, yeah, but you don't know what you're talking about.
And then I start looking at the source,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm just like, is this even somebody who is in a
Yup.
position to have? Yeah.
That's the one. That's the one. It's
Weird.
why the only praise that matters to me comes from like 4 people in my life. Otherwise, you could have the entire United States of America filling out ballots talking about how I'm the best person alive, and I would just be like, yeah, y'all voted for Trump though, so not really impressed.
Oh, and our friendship just deepens and deepens.
So yeah, I have this thing where when I have had jobs working for other people, I initially just knock it out of the park, over deliver, amazing performance, really killing it, positive reinforcement. And then I kind of dick around all of a sudden because I'm like, yeah, all right, now you know I'm amazing and I can sort of rest on my laurels. And they're like, you didn't do amazing today. And I'm just like, oh, I didn't do amazing? Oh, really? I didn't? Even though I did it all those other times, now you're going to make an issue out of it this one time? I see how it is. And then all of a sudden I start to have a fucking attitude about every little thing.
Oh my God.
So his whole like feeling here of, I know what I'm doing and I'm good at this.
Mm-hmm.
And why am I not more important? I really understand that feeling, and it's not fair. It truly isn't, you know? But also, you've been given a really good chance here, and you have literally stabbed that person in the back, sir.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen? Like, what he thinks is going to happen is that he won't get caught, and somehow Ted will be, like, sidelined because of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really know why he thinks that Ted would be sidelined, because the person who would do that would be Rebecca.
Right.
And I don't, like, she's not going to do that. So
I think Nate is hoping that this revelation causes such an outpouring of, you know, fans demanding a change that Rebecca is backed into some kind of corner, or that maybe Ted resigns out of like embarrassment or to save Rebecca from having to make a hard decision, you know.
It's not going to happen, Nate.
It's
not going to happen, bruh.
It's
not it.
I have a tremendous amount of empathy for Nate, even in this, after this reveal. And it's funny because you do as well, but we have it from different angles.
Mm-hmm.
So my empathy for Nate really is rooted in what we've seen of his relationship with his father.
Yeah.
And how just damaged he is. And not that it is an excuse or a pass for this bad behavior, because, you know, just because somebody's hurt you doesn't give you permission to go out and hurt other people.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But I just felt like, oh, you know, like, just so fuck, you know, just like, God damn it. Like, it doesn't have to be like this, dude. You are making these terrible choices, and you don't have to make these choices.
Yes.
So it's like a lot of empathy and an incredible amount of frustration, you know? But
and it's also like, if he thinks that what you just sort of like said was his idea of the consequences of this, which is Rebecca will be pressured by everybody else sort of losing faith in Ted. It just really, to me, that's so unlikely. And if he thinks that's what's going to happen, he has not got the measure of anybody that he's working with. And that really makes sense, because he's going to see everybody's reaction through the lens of what his father would do.
Exactly. I was just about, he can't have a true measure of other people, because his whole lens is all askew. It's all fucked up, you know? So, it was not probably, like, I know the way the show does the reveal, I don't think it's supposed to be a shock, but I think it's supposed to be like a, oh my God kind of moment.
It was a shock.
Oh, were you shocked?
Oh, yeah. I didn't have time to really think about it, because he's just shows you the article, And my first thought was, I can't believe that he's publishing this. And then just as I'm thinking, oh my God, that means somebody told. But who would tell? And I had barely had a chance to even like ask myself the question before he put it was Nate. And I just went,
oh.
And it was awful. Because like if I had had time, I'm sure I would have
Right.
come to the conclusion eventually. But they didn't really give me a space for it, which I think was a good way to play it.
Yeah.
And yeah, oh my God. I was disgusted. Like it really for me was the culmination of an attitude that we have seen brewing for a minute, and it is the worst possible scenario.
Yeah.
In terms of what he could how he could have chosen to handle all of this.
Even with our, wishing that Ted had maybe behaved differently when it comes to Nate, maybe addressed some of this shit when it was starting to rear its ugly head. Because if you think about him, if we constantly keep the way I constantly think about Nate in relationship to his parents and his father especially, then I view his behavior as just acting out. It's a child acting out for attention, which he never got.
Yep.
People kept like ignoring it, glossing over it, talking on the side to him like Beer did, but he never gets the attention from Ted, which is what he seems to be like desperate for.
Which is weird because again, it's Ted that gives him the shot at this job. So Ted saw him and the potential in him that his father doesn't see, but he wants more, I guess.
More.
More.
Yeah.
Ugh. I just hate this so much because like you said, I have empathy for his, like, where he's coming from, but this is just so self-destructive in the end.
Yeah.
And it's the exact sort of thing you see people do. We can be our own worst enemy and we think we're going after something. And what we're really doing is just like dropping a match at our feet, which are soaked in gasoline. And we're just not fucking seeing it. We're looking around like, fuck you all. I'm going to burn you. And it's like, sir, you're standing in oily rags. What are you doing? And I am not looking forward to any of the fallout for this. There are times where somebody does something fucked up and my reaction is, I can't wait for them to get theirs. And I don't even feel that way because he is punishing himself so like in his head. It must be horrible being in there.
I can't.
And
yeah.
I just, there is no external consequence that is going to be like worse than what he already feels about himself all day, every day. I feel like, and
but he can't even admit that.
Nope.
He can't. So,
I hate this so much. I really do.
There was a, I don't know if I've mentioned this to you before because I wasn't sure like how to bring it up. It's not really a spoiler. It doesn't matter, but I have to be like really careful about shit. But Jason Sudeikis and the other creators were really public about their ideas about the show, and they wthey were very adamant that it was only going to be 3 seasons, and I think that they are sticking to that. I'm not sure, but they had said very clearly it was going to just be 3 seasons. And one of the things they kept saying without going into great detail was that they were looking to Star Wars for inspiration and the idea of like the first 3.
Interesting.
As far as like what they have planned. And I just wanted to pop that out for you.
Interesting.
To mull over.
Okay. Yeah, so we could put Nate as a potential Anakin, which would be very, very upsetting. It's like that meme that has been posted where somebody is like, I overheard a man telling his 4-year-old that Anakin Skywalker was a man who had big feelings and didn't know how to process them. And considering that this season has been really centered around mental health and people getting therapy and like learning about themselves, I feel like it's really appropriate to have someone who isn't doing any of that work and seeing the havoc they can wreak on other people's lives.
We never once saw Nate ask Dr. Sharon for any time, did we?
Nope. I feel like he's the kind of person who would just see that as like an admission of weakness in itself. It would be like just, and I have to imagine too, you know, he is a person of color, and there has been a stigma around therapy being only for white people for a while that still remains. I
had that for a long time.
So yeah, I could see it being something that he is just like, yeah, come on.
Part of me, and this is not based on anything, this is just a wild way I feel. I feel like if Dr. Sharon had been around in the early first season, Nate would have went to see her.
I could see that. Okay.
But
he's like started to feel himself a little too much already by the time she comes around.
By the time she shows up.
Yeah. It's just like, and this is the thing that when you shared something recently about that, like, quote, hurt people, and how that's not fair, because there are lots of people who have been hurt and they go out of their way to not hurt other people because they understand what that's like. So that, like, painting of the brush as hurt with a brush of everyone who has been hurt is also hurtful is unfair and untrue. And it's just people cope differently with being hurt. And this is the reality, is when you start to grow as a person, if it's through seeing a therapist, if it's through branching out and meeting people from different backgrounds and points of view and reading and whatever, not everybody's going to come along for the ride with you.
God, that is so fucking true.
And it's a really hard thing to realize that people that mean something to you are really uninterested in growing any further. And they can lash out at you, I think, a lot of times because they sense that you're doing something they are not interested in and they are afraid of. And the fact that we have so many people in the show who are really aware of themselves and trying to do better, apologizing when they've hurt someone. And then we have Nate, who isn't, the only thing that he is aware of in himself is everything he hates about himself. And that's not real self-awareness. It's self-loathing and self-consciousness. And because he isn't seeking more understanding, he is behaving in the worst possible way, because he has such a limited concept of what the possibilities are. Because he only has what, like, how he was brought up as the barometer for how people are going to react to him. And it's really a shame, because it's like also an insult to his friends that if he thinks this news leaking is going to somehow result in him getting more of an opportunity to shine, that is him thinking very little
of the people that he works with. Everyone. It is such a disservice. But he doesn't, it doesn't seem as if that's something that he can see.
No. And I just really, this is just a thing that happens. People who fuck things up for others are not necessarily inherently bad people, but that doesn't change the effect of what they're doing. And that isn't an excuse for it. And they have the capability to like, granted, getting access to therapy is difficult and it's expensive and it's not something that everybody can access, but there are resources to educate yourself to like more of a degree and learn, even if it's not through a direct conversation with somebody who's dealing with your specific issues. There are ways to learn, and so I don't have as much as somebody who I don't have access to therapy right now. It's just not something I can afford to do. So I get that. I still have other things that I can work on. And other things that I can be aware of in myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's part of like training yourself to see that stuff. But
Yeah.
I just feel really, it makes sense that we would have somebody in the show who isn't doing that and seeing the way that manifests.
Yeah. And like there are other characters on the show that didn't engage Dr. Sharon that we were aware of anyway. Like Beard, we don't see Beard with her. We don't see Roy with her. But we also get an idea that both Beard and Roy, like you mentioned earlier, not that they don't have any problems because they both clearly have some shit going on, but they are like self-possessed and seem to have come to some type of understanding of who they are as people. And they they both seem like, for good or for bad, they are okay with who they are.
Yeah.
You know, which is very different from Nate, who does not seem to be okay with who he is.
And I think it's interesting that you say that, like, be okay with who you are, because like, I think it's funny. You can be okay with who you are and fundamentally be like, but I have a lot of work to do, you know? And it's interesting that we're like, they are okay with who they are when we're also saying they're constantly trying to be better. And if you say somebody's just constantly striving to be better, there might be an interpretation of like, oh, so they don't like themselves as they are. And it's like, no, those are not mutually exclusive things at all. You know, they have to go together, actually.
Exactly. Agreed.
So, yeah, so that sucks. I hate it. And I am really worried because we have episode 12 next, which is the last one that is available.
And I don't know. I mean, I haven't read it. Every time an article pops up, I used to click on every article that talked about season 3, and they were all clickbait bullshit.
Yep.
So I stopped reading them. So I have no idea what the fuck is going on with this show. I have to like get back.
There has been no news. I looked today just out of curiosity, and everything is, we think it will be out by May because that's when the Emmys, like, you have to have been out by then. But that's the only thing that anybody's got.
I am terrified that like something's going to happen, because I know that there's been a bunch of like off scene stuff. But like again, headlines, you know, but Jason had all his drama, and then there's, you know, whatever. And I'm just terrified that I'm going to read an article. It's like, it's not coming back. So I just haven't been reading anything.
Yeah.
But I do think I saw something that said that filming wrapped.
Oh yeah, definitely it wrapped
a while ago.
Yeah.
So everything is like in post-production now. So
yeah, so they were thinking it might be out in December, and then they were saying January, and now they're saying no, not January. We don't know.
Well, the first 2 seasons came out like spring, summertime-y. So May that you mentioned, May feels right. The
second season came out in September of 2021, according to the article I read. Yeah, I thought so.
I thought it was the summertime.
But
who knows?
It doesn't. Yeah. Well, all y'all need to know is that we are about to be up on that last episode, and we don't know when the third season's coming out, which is really inconvenient to the way we have this show structured, and I'm kind of annoyed about it.
When we first, I was so certain that by the time we got done, it would be like a new season. Of course. But like, I did not know they were going to have all these delays and shit. So
yeah.
All right. So there's some other stuff that happens in this episode. Do you want to talk about Sam and Edwin, or do you want to talk about Sam and Rebecca?
Let's talk about Sam and Edwin.
Or Ted and Sharon.
Let's talk about Sam and Edwin.
All right. People did not like him, and I was mad, and I got into a lot of fights.
What is there not to like about this guy? Are you fucking high?
I got into a lot of fights. There was a lot of I was calling everybody racist. You hear me? I was calling everybody racist.
Look, that's fucking valid to me.
He's shifty. He seems sneaky. I don't trust him.
He seems sneaky. He literally says exactly what the fuck he's here for to everybody out the gate. The only thing he hides is that these are my friends. These are actors.
They called him sneaky. They called him a liar. I don't trust him. Something seems off with him. Yeah, it was. I was all
black man with money. Get him.
I was all up in the comment. And this gentleman whose name I meant to Google his name because I forgot it already. I recently found him in another TV show that is like was one season back when YouTube thought they were going to make original content. They made a TV show called Champagne Ill, and it's him and Adam Pally, and it's only one season. It didn't get renewed because it was YouTube. He is so fucking good in it as well. Like this guy he's just, whenever he's on the screen, you can't take your eyes off him. He's so good. But anyway, what did you think of this bit? This whole
I'm so into this, and I really think Sam needs to take this opportunity. This is like one of those where I'm just like, dude, Rebecca, don't go to his house. What are you doing, girl? Just don't do this. Like, I get it, and I understand that she needs to say her piece, and I suppose, but genuinely, you can't. You can't. It's not fair.
She has already told Sam that they have to take a break. She needs time to figure out what their relationship is and what she's comfortable in. So she has kind of removed any chance of her having an opinion on what he does next.
Yeah. Agree.
She doesn't get to say. But she decides she's going to just say it anyway because, you got to speak your truth.
Like, and again, do I think saying I hope you don't go is like an inherently bad thing to do? No. But could you have said it without showing up at his literal doorstep and waiting for him in dramatic fashion? I feel like you didn't need to do it.
There was a lot of that this episode. Jason, not
true.
Jason, fucking, because he's talking about Jason Sudeikis in the chat, but Ted does the same thing at Sharon. It's just like waiting outside her fucking front door. White people just think they can just post up outside a black person's house and just wait for them to show up.
This is the thing that I love about, like, especially, what do you call it? Soap operas. Nobody phone calls anymore. They just fucking show up.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love, and I haven't really watched a soap opera in a minute, but in my heart, I know that even though cell phones are ubiquitous and there's no reason to not be able to get in touch with somebody, I know that soap operas are still like,
definitely.
I have to go be at the house because
my cell phone battery died. Oh, there's no service here. Oh, somebody ran over my phone. His number's unlisted. They'll fucking come up with a reason every episode for why. Yeah.
I love that for them.
I always think about this, like how it used to be that you couldn't call and you just had to show up, and there would be like, depending on what tier of society you occupied and where you lived, there would be like visiting hours that it was acceptable to come, and you would leave your card if they were out visiting. And if you were at home, you would be dressed by this time and have like refreshments ready for whomever might stop by.
You're ready to receive people.
It's just such a weird, like, I kind of like it in the sense that, like, there is a structure to it, and it's not just people randomly showing up. There's like an agreed social.
Like the idea that we are all on the same page.
Exactly.
That is what appeals to me.
But the thing I don't like is the concept of like, I have a lovely tea and a really cute dress and nobody comes that day. I would be very mad.
Like, and imagine that you have to get up and be prepared every day. And there are probably weeks at a time where no one comes.
Yep.
And then you have to just keep making yourself do it.
But and if you're somebody who's like, tell them that I'm not home, then you get the reputation of being like a weird hermit who's so antisocial, The
only plus is that if you're the type of person that would be receiving people, you're not doing shit else every day.
That's true.
So you might as well get up every morning and get dressed in nice clothes and make sure that, your people in the kitchen downstairs have tea ready and all that shit. What the fuck else are you doing?
That's true. Be like, well, I really like tea and I would like some of those saffron cakes, please.
It's not like you like have to do all that and like scrub the fucking baseboards.
True.
And
then we had the thing that was added to Animal Crossing where your neighbors from the island can just knock on your door now.
My God.
I hate it.
Come sit down in your fucking living room and
just fucking pop open a magazine. They just sit down in your home and begin to read. You don't need to be here for this. Sprinkle, go home.
And then whenever they're done, they're like, well, I guess I'll go home now. I always get like low-key offended, but also really happy that they're leaving because the energy is kind of like, well, you're not very entertaining, so I'm just going to go home now.
Right.
But
and there's the option to be like, no, don't leave yet. I have never exercised that option.
Bye. Thanks for stopping by.
Appreciate you. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you.
The only villager that visits me is my least favorite villager, and I think
always the way.
It's the fucking the one that works out all the time, the chonk guy.
It's one of the jock types.
It's the only one that ever comes to see me. It's my least favorite neighbor. So it's like real life.
Jock types are the worst.
Oh, they really are.
I have one that I like have grown to like because they have different versions of their dialogue. But some of them can get bent. Anyway, so yeah, this dude, the interpretation of his announcement that he is going to visit and that he has all this money that Rebecca jumps to, of course. Well, she doesn't even jump to it. Higgins suggests it is that he is looking to buy the team.
Yeah.
And she makes it clear from the outset she's not looking to sell. And he's like, I'm not looking to buy the team. I am looking to buy a player. Yeah. And this episode begins with everybody cheering Sam on, with like the crowd chanting Sam's name.
Oh, right.
And I have to say, I really appreciate that his last name is part of the chant because it feels like the sort of thing that could easily just be like, oh, he has a weird last name and nobody knows how to pronounce it.
Yeah, we're not even going to bother with it. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. But it's not actually difficult, and the whole crowd is like has incorporated it, and I was like, nice.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing about soccer that I think Americans don't, unless you're like really hardcore into it. It's difficult for Americans to understand and appreciate because in America, all of our sports, despite the fact that we name everything like world champions, all of our shit is just the United States. Mm-hmm. Soccer is a global sport,
right?
You know, so there is, even though there's like rampant racism within soccer, that there are still teams that throw bananas at players and shit like that. That happens it happens with hockey too, but I won't go into that. But so I like the idea of like the fans of the sport being worldly enough that they wouldn't be like, oh, that name is,
right. Yeah.
Because they're used to having people from all around the world be on their team, which is something very, very different than how like we do sports here.
Although then there's that Key and Peele sketch with the names of the football players.
Well, that's just black people sprinkling a little spicy spice on shit for y'all.
Donkey Punch, Louisiana Tech.
That skit cracks me. I never get tired. Every time it shows up for like somebody will post it or like a meme will pop up, and then I have to go watch the clip because those are the rules. I don't make them.
They've done like 3 of them now.
Oh my God! I don't know if I even realized that.
The one guy who just makes dolphin sounds.
It's so good. Oh Jesus. So Edwin comes and there's a lot of fun little bits as he takes Sam out on this mandate. Takes him to a museum and they are admiring the artwork of a Nigerian artist whose name I don't know, and I like I feel like it's probably a real person.
Yeah,
right?
I'm guessing it is. Yeah.
And I probably,
but I haven't looked into it.
Yeah.
Fucking Banksy shows up and he's just a very tired middle-aged white man who is over it.
He opens his bag and all his little spray cans float around.
And he just has this energy when he looks at him like Kevin McAllister when all of his groceries drop out the bottom of his shopping bags. There's this moment when Kevin's walking home from the store, all the groceries pop, and he just... And he just stands there for a second with his empty bags waving in the wind. And then we just have a smash cut away. And that was kind of the vibe with this guy. He's just like...
It's like his whole body just deflated.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good. It's so good.
And
then
Sam says something about how you don't have a security detail. And everyone's like, oh, I bought this museum out for the day and every single person here is an actor. And then Sam is like, oh, I think I recognize that guy from, what is the name?
A reality show or something, I think.
It was like, We Hate You or...
No. It's I May Destroy You.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
Oh my God, you haven't watched it yet. You have to watch that. It is Michaela Cole or Cole. I don't know how to say her last name. It is so good. It is one of the best things I have ever fucking watched.
Wow.
It is so goddamn good. But anyway, so yeah, look into that.
Okay,
I May Destroy You. It is super intense. It's very, very heavy, but it's fucking so good. Oh my God, it's so good. Okay.
Wow.
Chris, I don't think that was really Banksy.
No. Oh, no. I think that's the joke, is nobody knows who he is, and they just decided, what if we just pick somebody who is not at all the, like, you know, artsy-fartsy hipster type that you might expect.
Exactly. Like, you think, like, Banksy is going to be, like, wearing a hoodie, you know. Like,
instead it's Dilbert.
And then they go to this very nice restaurant, and it turns out that it's something else that Edwin has prepared. He, you know, has his people that, you know, travel with him, and he wanted to make Sam feel comfortable and have this authentic food. I absolutely love his arrival on the pitch in the helicopter.
Oh, in the helicopter? Yes, power move.
And the handshake. Because that pays dividends later.
Because, forgive me, I'm interpreting this as, I don't shake the hands of white men.
Yes.
And I love that Ted has a moment of like, what the fuck? And then he stops and is like, well.
No. I can't even be mad about it. Because Ted is all be like, oh wait, no, he doesn't shake hands. And then he gives Sam this like great handshake.
Full on handshake.
And then when Ted gets the handshake from Edwin's dude, whose name I can't remember, it's a really good fucking handshake, though. It's not like some shoddy shit. It's a solid handshake. It's so good. I love that moment.
If anything, that was the moment where I was like, oh, okay, I trust this guy. He doesn't even try and hide the fact that he isn't shaking Ted's hand.
They were so mad about it.
I bet they fucking were. I bet.
They were mad.
You mentioned how everybody was salty about the mention of colonization whenever Sam would like bring that up. And so it makes total sense to me that everybody would miss the entire point of this whole show and just take offense at a thing that Ted himself understood. Of course they did.
When Ted says, I don't know, it's from The Lion King, Hakuna
Matata.
And then, like, immediately apologizes because, like, that's a nonsense thing to say to a real live human being from a country that really exists standing in front of you. So, you know what I mean? But Ted catches himself in a moment. It's just like, oh, shit.
This is such a white person thing to do, too. Like, it is really... I have seen this happen, this kind of thing in person, not like specifically, you know, anything related to the Lion King or African people, but just like a white person trying to relate to someone of color in a way that's hugely inappropriate and like actually based in something so childish that it's embarrassing. And it just really, I appreciated immediately how Ted's like, oh no.
Right. Oh, I just did that thing.
I just stepped right into that. Yeah.
It's like I didn't even have a chance. Like it just happened. So this guy wants to bring, because we still have like a bunch of other stuff to talk about, but basically he wants Sam to come play for him, even though he doesn't have a team yet officially.
Yeah.
But he's planning on buying Casablanca, and in his mind, he wants to bring all of the African players that are out globally playing for all these other big teams and bring them home. His father has passed away. He's a billionaire. In his words, he's a billionaire who doesn't believe billionaires should exist. Yeah. Which I was just like, oh.
This is what we want, ladies and gentlemen. This is what we want.
So it all
Genuinely, why do you need that much money? Like, just what do you think you are going to do with it?
You can't. You could live 1,000,000 years and still not spend it all.
There is no better way to spend it than giving it to people who don't have money. There is absolutely, you cannot point to a single thing for me that makes more sense. Go do that shit.
Yep.
Ugh.
But
Anyway.
instead, so he's got this idea that he's gonna, in his words, he's gonna, use this money to build better things, to do better things. So he's gonna bring this team. He wants Sam to play, and he tells Sam it's not just because you're a good soccer player, which, by the way, you really are, but it's because you're a good man. And he talks about what Sam did with the oil company and Dubai Air and all that stuff, and that is like right up his alley, right? Like that's what Sam was going to respond to. That's the kind of man he is. And we get a really cute moment where Sam is talking to his father, and it's looking like he's really excited about the prospect and all that, all that. This guy is wooing him, he's shooting his shot. What do you think about his decision? What do you think Sam's going to end up doing?
I don't know I think he'll take the opportunity. I mean, it's exactly what he's dreamed of. Doing good, working for somebody who is not only Black, but from Africa and focused on other Black players and centering. Like, this guy is going to buy this piece of artwork that they were looking at and bring it to Ghana for a museum display there. Like, this man is focusing on the pride of a continent that has been just robbed consistently. And I feel like that just speaks
all of
so
their
directly.
Have all been are out around the world performing for other people and places. Yeah.
I mean, I just don't know how you don't say yes to that. It's like if a woman turned up and offered me like a job in her woman only company for like feminist podcasters, and she was a billionaire who was what am I gonna not do that? Like, I'm sorry, Owen, you either move wherever we're going or bye, because come on. And that's kind of where I'm at, is just like, Rebecca, if you decide that you would like to pursue this, uproot your life. Go. Yeah. Make a real move here, because that's what I think is you are in the position to do that more easily than anybody because of how much money you have. Just, I just don't think it's fair to be like, hang here just because I might eventually want to be with you, perhaps.
That's kind of the energy of what she was giving in Sam's house, right? It's very non-committal. It's very, I'm not making you any promises. But
like, if a dude was saying this to a girl who had a full ride to some college she wanted to go to.
We'd be
Are
talking
you
all
kidding?
kinds of shit.
Yeah. It's just no question. You don't turn down your scholarship to stay in your hometown and work at Dairy Queen with Donald, who
this is all very specific.
This is just for instance. But if he doesn't take this, I'm going to be very disappointed in him. He had better. And I can't believe people didn't like Edwin. This man is a pure delight. He even says at one point, congratulations, you each met a cool person. Like, he steals one of Ted's exact lines.
Yep.
Was that like, were people like, I don't trust him because he stole Ted's line? Like, how would he steal that? He doesn't know that.
Know? Exactly.
No, it's meant very clearly to be an exhibition of how this man has a good heart and is positive in a similar way as Ted is. And the fact that he buys a place out and doesn't mention, oh, I bought the place out. I mean, he mentions it when it's brought up that he doesn't have, he's not hiding it. He just doesn't front and center that. And then, how did I not know this restaurant existed? It doesn't. He's answering a question right away. And he even has them prepare the jollof rice in a
Nigerian fashion
instead of the Ghana fashion.
I really enjoyed the little banter between the two of them, and the sort of which country is better and all that. It was very, very cute. So, and we don't know at the end of this episode, what Sam's going to do. So that's a little bit of a cliffhanger for the finale.
Yeah.
Let's talk about
Ted and Sharon.
Yeah, I guess I will save Keely and Roy to the end because there's a whole thing going on with Roy and Keely.
Yeah.
All right, Ted and Sharon.
Yeah, so
all right, I just have to say off the bat, when Ted goes and bumps into Higgins in the office when he's looking for Sharon, because at the beginning of the episode they are doing the whole team is practicing the choreography from Bye Bye Bye. Is that Backstreet Boys or NSYNC?
That's NSYNC.
Is that NSYNC? Okay, I get them confused. I don't know which is which.
I think that's the joke where Beard says, "No, they're not in sync." I'm pretty sure that's like what they're doing there.
Oh, a joke like 2.5 years in the making. Oh, that's so good.
But yeah, they're doing this choreography, and I love it because you don't see that that's what they're doing. So you just see the camera on the coaches and Beard saying they're not in sync, and then Ted being like, "No, it's this," and he does the dance, and I'm thinking this is metaphorical. But then the camera like turns and they're all doing that. And I was like, oh my God, this is just so much.
Oh, that's funny. Chris says it is in sync because he owned the album. Okay. All right, kids. You guys got it. Y'all got it.
And he's planning this like performance for Dr. Sharon, which truly, do you think, Ned, that this is the way to come at her? Because I don't see her being interested.
None of this is anything that she's interested in.
Nope.
This is one of those gifts you give to someone because you would like to get it,
mm-hmm,
not because it's something that they want. So he goes and he bumps in Higgins is in the office because Dr. Sharon has already gone, and Ted is he is really, really hurt. He is heated, but he's really hurt.
Yeah.
It is triggering all his like abandonment shit. He can't believe she would do this to him. She has left him a letter, which he is not interested in. One of the best jokes of the whole season. Don't let her get away with it, Ted.
And he comes barreling back into the room just as fast and furious. But yes! And takes the letter.
Snatches that letter. And then he gives us, stands outside of her place, so she shows up. Insists that they have to have this conversation. Also, he really has to pee.
Mm-hmm.
But then he's so fucking angry and he's so hurt. He can't believe that she would leave and not say goodbye. And she is just, I wrote you a letter though. But it's all in the letter, because she has her own shit. She's not comfortable with goodbyes and whatever. I would be kind of pissed, actually, especially considering Ted's very specific shit with abandonment.
Agree.
And
he brings up, we had a breakthrough, and she's talking about him, and he's like, no, us, we did. I was like, yes, that is completely fair.
It is 100% fair. And then we don't ever hear what's in the letter.
No.
But we get what I thought was just a phenomenal performance of him. Right? Mm-hmm. That face was acting.
Yep.
It was, you guys, the first time I watched
I was tearing up watching his face move.
Yep.
Literally, not a word was said, and I was just losing it.
Same. It was unbelievable. That performance was so good. Like, I was imagining everything that was in that letter.
Mm-hmm.
Like...
He says you spelled favorite wrong, and I was like, she wrote favorite? She wrote favorite. Why would she write that? That's interesting. That feels pretty big.
Right.
Just saying. Noticing. Just pointing it out. I don't feel like this is a woman who uses the word favorite very often.
And I just thought whatever was in the letter, it was so meaningful. It was everything he needed to hear. It was just everything. And watching him go, when he fucking I'll read it.
I'll read your stupid letter.
He's all angry reading it at the beginning, and then like his face softens, and then you can see him sort of tearing up, and nodding his head, and moments where he's like, even though he's not reading it out loud, it's the breath is catching in his throat, even though he's not speaking.
Mm-hmm. And I love her just standing there awkwardly, like kind of looking around. She's so has her hand on her neck at one point.
She does not want to be here.
There is no like the awkwardness of being in the room with somebody reading a heartfelt thing that you wrote is very real. You
wrote it so that they would read it while you were away, and now you're standing like 2 feet from them. It is the opposite of what you wanted to happen. And I love how uncomfortable she is. Like, if she could just swallow up into herself in that moment and like disappear, she would have absolutely done that.
Yes.
And then they decide to go out for a drink.
Yay!
They go to the pub, and we get a really cute moment of them playing pinball, which I love. Anybody who loves pinball, it's a fun game. I'm not very good.
Very addicting game.
Oh, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
It's like so basic and easy, like to her point. She's just like, it's nothing but the ball and gravity.
Yeah, there's a couple of like arcades around here that have a whole wall of pinball machines of all different types. They got the Simpsons one and the Addams Family one, Sonic the Hedgehog, whatever. And I will just park up in there and just play pinball for like a straight hour.
That's how Steve is. If we go down to the shore, we're always at the boardwalk, and he is like, pinball is like his jam.
Yeah.
Like, he is king of the pinball machine.
And they're quite popular. Like, sometimes when we go, I have to wait for an open pin, even though they have a million.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it can be very annoying because I want to like get into it, and I can feel people hovering, waiting for me to be done, and I'm just like, leave me alone.
They're still so popular. I had no idea you like to play so much.
Yeah, it's fun.
Oh,
of course, it depends on the type because some of them are very ugly. I wanted to be pretty and have good sound effects and whatnot.
Yeah. You want something that's like, hey, you got it, score, way to go. Some of them are like really, really dark.
There's like some like weirdly bloody ones.
Yeah.
And then there's like WWE ones, and I'm like, I'm not.
There are some that are like super aggressive, and they're like yelling at you as opposed to like encouraging you. It's a very, you got to be careful what kind you pick. There's one of Steve's favorites is like a Kiss one, like the band.
Yes, I was just thinking about that one. Yeah, they have that one at this place. I can't remember what it's called, but yeah. Anyway, so yeah, they have this like lovely moment where they're really connecting, and he has to go pee, and she orders 2 more beers.
Yeah.
And as she's waiting, this fucking trio.
Oh my God. The boys come over, and I guess it's Paul. It's just like, he's afraid of snakes. And he just wants to be in his garden with his tomatoes.
What does it mean? Do you want it to mean something? Yeah. I mean, I really enjoy that question. Do you want it to mean something? Because he clearly does.
Clearly wants something, and she's just, maybe it's your anxiety, and it's your safe space, and da-da-da. And he is so relieved. It's like very basic what she does. Like, it's not like, any real in-depth therapy session. But it doesn't seem to matter because he just wanted somebody to say a thing about it.
Yeah.
And then fucking Baz is like, I'm floating. I'm not flying. Floating. And then May comes and is like, call the number I gave you.
I'm so curious about what she gave them.
I love this has come up before, right? Like they've had a conversation, and she's like, let me give you a number that you can call.
I also love the distinction between I'm not flying, I'm floating, because this is one of those things where I'm like, God, I really do have such anxiety. I have flying dreams, but I'm only like 3 feet off the ground.
I'm sorry.
And basically like have to like swim forward to get anywhere.
What
Like,
kind of
my
flying
dream is like, okay, we're going to
that?
let you fly, but nothing crazy, okay? We don't need you floating into the stratosphere. We are going to keep you close to the ground. You don't touch the ground, but you are well within the purview of a walking person so that you are still comfortable.
If anything should happen and you hit the ground, it's like 2.5 feet.
Exactly.
You'll be fine. There's no real danger.
No ambition in my
really
dreams.
interesting.
None. Just
I want
like
to fly, but not too high.
And and I start by just sort of like hopping like a belly flop and then just stopping. And I'm like, all right, now, and I'm still, and I have to, like I said, initiate by doing kind of a front stroke.
At least you have dreams where you fly. I don't have those dreams.
No?
I don't have flying dreams. I have falling dreams. I
have those.
I do not have flying dreams.
Falling dreams suck.
Yeah, I have dreams of falling from great heights.
I had that fucking falling dream with the both of us in it.
Oh,
you remember?
Okay.
Guys, I was telling Rashawn about it. I literally burst into tears just talking about it with her. It was no good. So anyway, this is when May brings her the one beer. She's like, no, I ordered 2. She says, Ted wanted me to give you this. There's a letter. And there's also a little army man in the beer. And May comes back and it's like, here's a beer without the shit in it.
He stole my move, which is a line from a movie. I don't think that they
Good Will
took it
Hunting.
Oh, is that what that's from?
Mm-hmm.
I see, because I am who I am. I in the movie predates Good Will Hunting. I attribute that to a different movie.
Oh, what is it?
Nobody would. It's a Bukowski movie. There was a what's his name? What's the name of the guy that was really hot until he wasn't? Mickey Rourke. Mickey Rourke played Bukowski in a movie with Faye Dunaway.
Faye Dunaway?
Is that a real name?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a line in that. Bukowski wrote a short story about the filming of the movie, and he was talking about Mickey Rourke playing him and what a good job he did. And as they get up from this meeting, Bukowski says about Mickey Rourke, son of a bitch stole my move.
That might be where they took it from for Good Will Hunting. I just assume they took it from Good Will Hunting because that's also about a therapist.
I think that the Ted Lasso thing is directly a callback to Good Will Hunting.
Yeah.
Nobody saw that movie. It was just me, Barfly. Nobody else watched it.
Look, I'm still into Mickey Rourke. I don't know why, but in the Iron Man 2 movie, he's real greasy.
Oh, he is.
Something about him. I like it. I want my bird.
Remember 9.5 Weeks?
What's that?
9.5 Weeks. You ever see that?
Never saw that.
Oh, girl. That was like, it's like a Skinamax type movie. It was like the 60s movie.
God.
You know, but now it's like really cheesy when you think about it. But yeah, that was like the height of like sensuality.
Oh my God. Yeah. I love what was it? Last Tango in Paris? It was very erotic. Just like the standards change so dramatically. But sometimes shit still works, even if our standards have very dramatically changed.
I don't think I've watched 9.5 Weeks since I was a little kid. So I don't, you know what? I might look for it to see if it holds up.
I keep thinking about Mickey Rourke because of his role in Iron Man 2. I remember finding out afterward that he took that shit really seriously and had like a whole backstory and everything for his character that was like very in depth, and just like for how goofy a part it was, it just feels very overkill. But also, he is super memorable. He was killing that role, so I'm kind of like, maybe it paid off though.
You're like, oh, maybe he was really on something.
Yeah, you know, I like it.
Yeah, he's a weird guy. Like, he was like gonna be like the next like super big thing, and then he kind of was, and then something happened with his career, and he kind of, I don't remember the details, but he just kind of fell off. And then Iron Man happened, and I think he had that movie The Wrestler where he got like a bunch of like Oscar buzz and everything, and he sort of was like on this comeback trail or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think I saw that.
I definitely didn't see it.
Anyway, Mickey Rourke. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen.
So he leaves the goodbye note, and that's it for Ted and Sharon.
Mm-hmm.
Keely and Roy.
Yeah, this is interesting. I'm fascinated
I'm
by
going to
this.
sit back and hear what you have to say about all this. I'm not going to say nothing.
So, will we really get this episode? I mentioned that Roy's niece, is that what she is to him?
Mhm.
His niece's teacher seemed to be pretty into him. There was just a whole energy.
A couple episodes ago, you definitely did.
And I wasn't thinking that he picked up on it. And then the way he acts this episode, I started to be like, Roy, what are you doing? Like, it felt like, oh, no, he does.
Mhm.
And he's very much here. And the text from Keeley, or not even, like, there is a text, but it's also the alert to go head to the shoot.
Yeah, he's got a reminder up.
Yeah. There's just a kind of juxtaposition of how much he's enjoying the conversation that he's having here with her versus this thing he has committed to doing with Keeley that he is not really interested in. He's doing it for her.
Yeah.
And this is a real thing that happens in a relationship when you like commit to somebody and they have other priorities. You agree to be with them for those things. And that's just part of it. So you run into stuff where you don't really want to do the thing and somebody else might seem more appealing. And that's not the end of the relationship or the end of the world or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But it is, it was hugely noticeable when she asks if he's married and he just says no.
Yep.
I was like, I feel like you noticed that you just said no. And
Absolutely.
he says it later to Keeley. And I was like, okay, good. Because that felt like very significant.
Yep. Just like that dead space where he should have been like, but I am dating, or with or whatever. And there's just nothing. There's just like empty space.
So, and it turns out that like she's putting up all this artwork because it's parent teacher conferences and she can't put up Phoebe's artwork because Phoebe draws tits.
They were really good though.
They were very well done.
I feel like
Shading.
They really should have been like, these are excellent bits though. I mean, inappropriate to hang up, but God, she's talented.
I'm really like, where is she seeing these tits that she's drawing?
I just assumed they were all Keeley.
I figured they were, but I'm like, how are you seeing that though? Is she just getting naked in front of you? Like, if maybe she is like just changing in front of Phoebe, and it's not because some people are fine with this in front of kids and they don't care, and I don't think it's like a big deal.
Yeah, it's not.
But a lot of people wouldn't be cool with that. So, but yeah, she's doing adult artwork that the teacher is just like, yeah, I'm not putting this up. And she says something about how some of the boys stole them and are using them as currency.
Yeah, using them as currency.
I really liked that line a lot.
She also has a really fun line about the names that the kids call her. And she's like, oh, I don't know them. And Roy is like, really? And then she names off like 7 different names.
One of them is Fuckwitch, which is her favorite. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, so we find out later when he's talking to Keeley that it doesn't seem like it at the time, but he spent like 3 hours. Mm-hmm. That's a long ass time to be hanging out with this woman in the classroom.
And he asks her why her kids' artwork is so much better than the other kids. And she says, I take it away from them before they can ruin it.
Yep.
Which is a real, first of all, as a former artist who would like to return to that is a very real thing. You can pick at your shit so much that you just ruin it. Ask anybody. Ask George Lucas. And if you just don't know when to leave it alone, or you keep adding stuff, it will overpower everything that you intended it to be. And it's just really, really hard to know when that point is that you should stop. So I enjoyed that just as an artistic thing, but also there was a vibe that felt like we were metaphoring a relationship, ending it before it's ruined. And I was like, I don't care for that. I don't like this implication.
Yeah, so we know from the beginning of the episode that Roy is has been invited to participate in this photo shoot because he's talking to everybody about his fucking eyebrows.
Yes.
And he's got these crazy eyebrows that he doesn't think are crazy
that are psychotic.
all, according to Beard.
Thank you.
So we know that that's a thing. We know that it seems like this photo shoot is a nuisance to Roy, is sort of the energy I got from the way he's talking about it.
Yes. But
when he does finally show up and Keely is really in need of help and support, you know, I thought he shows up for her in such a real way.
Very much so.
You know, to just like ground her, give her support, remind her how badass she is and how great she's going to do. Because she's feeling, this is new for her. You know, she has been this sort of like, pretty girl that's famous for being sort of pretty and almost famous. You know, she's like, you know, but this is different. This is not about her being cute or her being pretty. This is about like who she is as a person.
Yeah.
And she's feeling a lot of insecurity around this. And he just, again, shows up for her in the way I think we all want our partners to show up for us. And you're just like, oh yeah, they are so good together, right? Like this is what we want. And then they're on that sofa and they start telling each other the truth about some things.
Yeah, she, well, first I want to mention about her being like, this isn't about how I look, it's about me. And I really do appreciate that, as that distinction as to why she's nervous, especially like, just, this is part of like aging as a woman specifically as well. It's an evolution of her career, but it's also going to be part of what happens is when you are young and effortlessly beautiful, you get defined by that.
Yeah.
And when that starts to slip away, if you haven't developed any other things that you are proud of, that you know, sort of have your personality centered around, and that's all it was, and you focus so much on that, you feel very unmoored. And
also, I want to add to that, even if you have other things that you want to like center yourself around, if you have a reputation that precedes that of just being like known for how beautiful you are or whatever,
a
lot of times people aren't interested in any other bits.
Very much so.
You know?
Yep. This was something that it took me a long time to realize. And I actually had the Dandelion Dynasty book series I've mentioned a million times, and I always recommend them. They're so good, you guys. But there is this beautiful sequence in the last chapter I read where this girl has done a painting and this boy is complimenting it. And she has received compliments from men about her work before. And it's always them actually complimenting her beauty. And they're not talking about the painting. And when this guy comes at her being like, this painting is beautiful, her initial reaction to this compliment is disappointment, because she didn't think he was going to come at her with the same energy. And then he's like, what I'm seeing here, even though it's impressionistic, is that this is a kiln and these are the loaves of bread about to go into the kiln. And these stripes here are the movement of somebody rushing into the room to take the bread out of the oven. And that's exactly what she intended. And nobody had ever gotten it before. And she's suddenly overwhelmed with the fact that somebody is complimenting her work for her work and really sees what she's doing. And it's never happened because every other person has always been just like, oh yeah, beautiful painting, amazing lines, like you know, with that leering sort of quality.
You don't see what I'm doing here, but I'm doing a thing here.
I'm so subtle.
Yeah.
And I realized like I had that happen so much. I had like dudes who would give me compliments and I couldn't understand why I didn't react well. I had this like gut understanding it wasn't about what I wanted it to be about, but at the time I didn't have the vocabulary for it. And I was just like, that just feels like not a compliment actually. And yeah, when it's just about how you look, like to a point you have no control over that. It's not a compliment really to just be like, you look the way that I like for people to look. Like, who cares? So just the fact that she's sort of learning that or she's growing in terms of her brand, really, and moving forward successfully. That's like a big deal, and it's going to be an adjustment to be seen this way. Also, her saying people are going to see what I'm really like. I'm like, one, no, they're not. It's an interview. So it's going to be wildly edited and fucking made into a clickbait thing where you can just be like, oh my God, yeah, that day's shooting was really terrible. I was freezing. And then the next headline for this article is going to be, Keeley said filming such and such was terrible. And that's going to be the fucking thing. So Keeley, just don't get thinking that this is really going to be about you. Just right out of the gate, I want to warn you.
Mm-hmm.
But then the fact that she has been sort of like a weird it girl, but not quite. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are still not going to take her seriously. Yeah. And I hope she's prepared for that too.
One of the things Roy says to her in this moment when she talks about being nervous and being afraid, he says, you had an advert where you jumped out of a plane topless eating a hamburger.
Yep.
How could you be afraid of this just photo shoot?
Yep.
And it's a throwaway line and it's kind of ridiculous, but think about that for a second.
I would rather not.
Right? Jumping out of an airplane topless eating a hamburger. Like,
have you seen that Paris Hilton hamburger advertisement? Because it felt like they were like kind of doing a thing with that.
I remember when she was doing like Jack in the Box, whatever the fuck, and they were like, these giant hamburgers, and she was like in a garage with like a string bikini on to eat a giant. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, she's washing a car in a string bikini and also taking timeouts during the car washing to eat a hamburger, which is certainly a thing that everybody always does. And it is the most like softcore porn thing you've ever seen.
I can't believe I lived through a time when Paris Hilton was like a thing that I knew about and like was part of my like life.
Did I tell you Paris Hilton was at the resort when we went on our honeymoon?
No.
Yeah.
I don't think you did.
We didn't see her, but she was there. It's a Hilton property, and I didn't realize that. And so when we arrived, and the guy was like showing us around, he's like, I'm sorry, we're a little bit frantic right now because Paris Hilton is here and she's down by the pool. And I was like, she's what? And he's like, I know. And I thought about going to look at her, and then I was just like, I truly don't care about Paris Hilton.
Well,
but just knowing she was there was kind of fun.
Because I just stayed at a Hilton property in Parsippany, New Jersey over Christmas, and Paris Hilton was not there.
Parsippany.
Granted, it was a Hampton Inn, but still, it's a Hilton property.
But yeah, so that whole thing it leads to the two of them being a little bit closer. This photographer doing the photos of them saying, I need a different camera. I'll be back.
She looks amazing, I just want to say.
She looks crazy.
This pink jumpsuit situation she's got going on with her hair all slicked back. Fuck, she looks great. And they are on the sofa, and they are facing each other because the photographer wants them looking at each other's eyes. And then, like you said, she goes to get a new lens, and they just start telling each other the truth about some fucking things.
Yeah, he asked her how shopping with Nate went. She said fine, and then here she's like, actually, he tried to kiss me. It was really weird. And he sympathizes and is like, oh, that sounds so awkward. And it's fine.
Not threatened at all.
No. And he says, like, thank you for telling me. And then he just is like, I was talking to Phoebe's teacher for 3 hours, and she asked if I was married, and I just said no. And that's all I said. And I was like, Roy, I don't feel like what Keeley said to you is this level of confession. This doesn't feel appropriate to me at the moment.
Keeley hits him back with, at the fucking funeral, Jamie told me that he's still in love with me. And Roy is rocked.
Mm-hmm.
This is not like Nate kissing me. This is a problem.
Which I find funny because, like, I really didn't think Jamie was going to seem like a threat to Roy. You know?
You know what? This might sound like weird. I might be way off base, and I didn't think this initially, but it came to me like later. I wonder, because the whole Roy-Jamie relationship has been so fraught, right? And they've been through so much, they hated each other. Mm-hmm. And then they get to this place where now they're like, there's still like surface animosity, but
Sure.
we had that moment in the locker room after Jamie's dad came and was like a huge dick, and Roy's the one who hugs Jamie and everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that Jamie, like when I say that Roy is threatened, that's probably not the best way to express that. Really, I think that Roy is feeling betrayed because he has established this relationship with Jamie outside of Keeley, but you know, that they made it past all of this like back and forth shit that they had, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that maybe I don't know. I suspect maybe the hurt is more about Roy feeling like, I can't believe Jamie would do that after all we've been through. And that we finally got to this place, right?
Okay.
Not so much like he's like threatened that Jamie could get Keeley and steal her away, but
sure.
Just like, you know what I mean? Like,
I could see that. That didn't occur to me, and I'm not sure that I'm taking it that way, but I could see that being valid.
The first several times I watched this episode, I was immediately just like, oh, Jamie's trying to like sneak his girl, and Roy is reacting to this guy trying to sneak around and grab his girl. But then, like, this time when I watched it, I was like, oh, maybe it's not that. Maybe it's something else.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, I am certain that the only reason Keeley tells him about what Jamie said is because he has just confessed this weird thing with the teacher. And she's like, I feel comfortable telling you this. Otherwise, I don't think she would have, honestly. And there's a part of me that's sort of like, did she feel a way about him saying that and was like, well, I also have somebody on the sidelines that might be interested, just FYI.
Interesting.
It felt a little like, oh, it's like that? Because I was just telling you about a thing Nate did. And now you're kind of telling me that you weren't claiming me. And that has a completely different energy than what she told him. So she's got this thing with Jamie in her back pocket that he did not need to know. I don't feel like her not telling him was a violation. She doesn't have to tell him.
You don't think that, like, so if she had not have told Roy about Jamie's confession or declaration, it would not have been like a violation? You don't think that was a weird thing not to tell him about? Because he has to work with Jamie every day. And this man has come to her and told her that he's so in love with her. You know,
I feel like that's the reason not to. Because it's like Roy knowing isn't going to change anything about the way that Jamie feels. And it's just going to cause their relationship to be fraught again. And that was really bringing the team down. The fact that they couldn't seem to work well together. So if anything, it seems like a good reason to just not bring it, unless she is harboring some feelings for Jamie also. And that's a different situation. But if that's not the case, I don't see a reason to tell him.
I think I disagree a little bit. Only because if I believe that Roy is acting in good faith with his relationship with Jamie, and then Jamie is not acting in good faith, then it's unfair. Like, Roy thinks we have gotten to a place of like trust and honesty, and you know, we're telling each other what the deal really is to move forward for the team and whatever else. And then Jamie is doing this other unacceptable behavior on the side. Like,
yeah, I guess that would require me to believe your assertion about Roy feeling betrayed by Jamie. And so since I don't totally buy that, that doesn't really factor in for me.
Yeah. I think, that's a weird thing. And you know what else too about this whole thing about like being betrayed is a lot of that sort of energy between men doesn't have anything to do with the woman involved, which makes it weird for me and kind of like gross, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a sort of like a man-to-man relationship and
bro code,
right? What we expect from each other and what we do for each other and how you should be honest, you know. And that's not really something I want to endorse.
Fair.
You know? But acknowledging that it exists, I can see how it would be very weird to like come into work on Monday morning, talk to Jamie, like you're a dude I trust and I fuck with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no idea that you told my girl that you love her.
Yeah.
I'm going to feel a way about that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's messy.
Yep. And it's the sort of thing that I'm also like weirdly giving Jamie a benefit of the doubt that I don't think he deserves, because he did say what I'm doing is shitty. Yeah. So Jamie knows that this was not a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
But there's also a part of me that feels like he's giving her credit that is so long overdue that it doesn't even feel like a new thing that he's springing on her. He's just basically being like, I have been very high maintenance and you have been there, and I want you to know I'm better than I was because, you know.
And I mean, I don't know about you guys that are listening, that are in the chat, but funerals are wild. Like,
yeah.
They
will fuck your head right up.
We can't all be held, responsible for the shit we did when someone dies.
Mm-hmm.
It would be unfair to hold everybody responsible for the shit we do when somebody dies, because we just wild out. I do. I don't know about y'all.
Yeah. There's nothing like a funeral to make you suddenly go, I have some shit to say. And I had better say it, because
I better say it right now.
Who knows?
I could die tomorrow.
Exactly. So yeah, that's basically where the episode ends, is on their faces looking very shook over the conversation, and they have to have like photos that are gonna go out to the masses where they both look like they are not into each other at all.
It is unfortunate.
I am really curious about what photo is going to be selected, but I feel like it's going to be something provocative and not in a good way.
I feel like that this is her big moment, and that her big moment with this interview and this magazine spread ends up
overshadowed.
This moment in her relationship. It makes
That's why I'm so mad he brought this up right now. Like, there is no reason.
Yeah.
Talking about what happened with Nate, it just feels like he just wanted to unburden himself. Yeah. And he just decided, since she told me a thing, I'll tell her a thing. It's like, those are not proportional things, Roy. Now is not the time.
And that's the thing too. Like I love the idea of like just like bold face honesty with your partner.
Mm-hmm.
But time and place, y'all.
Yep.
Time
very
and
much so.
Place.
It really feels like I'm going to give you the best sort of hype up speech before we do this, and then I'm going to completely pull the rug out from under you in the middle of it. Like,
and what is the motivation for that? Like, what,
That's my question. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we did a really good job this time of covering everything. Did. Last episode got away from us a little bit. But I think this time we did a good job.
But this time, everybody, I want to do a warning, air horn coming.
Uh-oh.
Before we run out of time, I want to say hi to 2 new patrons that we have this week. Matthew T. Nordstrom and Renata Sierra. I hope I'm saying that right. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you both. And I hope that y'all are enjoying the patrons only content, and maybe we'll come to some of the lives.
That would be nice. We'd love to see
cool. Yeah. And I also want to let everybody know I posted in the Discord, Facebook, on I believe I posted on Patreon as well, that the posting schedule is changing for 2023. I have moved when some things are going to be dropping to public feeds and on patrons only feeds. And I have a chart that I put out with all the information about what days I record what days I edit what days are dropped for patrons and for public. And there were just some days that I had said I was going to be dropping things, and the timing was not working out because I record all day the day before and I just didn't have time. So I've decided to adjust my expectations instead of constantly trying to make myself do something that doesn't work for me, which is really growth.
That's growth.
So, if you're curious about the changes, at least for Ted Lasso, this was dropping on Wednesdays. It's now going to be Thursdays. Song of Ice and Fire staying the same. Sookie was dropping Thursdays. That's now going to be Saturday. And for patrons, Ted Lasso is now dropping Tuesday instead of Sunday. And Song of Ice and Fire will be dropping Wednesday instead of Tuesday. So that's the short version. I feel like there was another thing that I was going to mention. Oh, I know. By the time this goes up, it will have started already. But if anybody's interested in joining unspoiled version of NaNoWriMo in the Discord, I will include the Discord link. But a lot of people have November as a very busy month, and doing NaNoWriMo during that month does not work for them. So we have decided to do one in January starting on the 8th. And it is, I think, going to be a good time. I have been looking through some notes. I also rewatched the Ted Lasso episode on Crowdcast where Rashawn and I talk about the familiar that I have planned for one of my witch characters. And we are very funny, Rashawn, by the way. I don't know if you know this, but
I was not aware. Are we?
Delightful. I found it very fun. So if anybody wants to know what I'm talking about with that, you have to come to the Crowdcast because it was not in the recording. It was before we started to record the episode. Is there anything you want to say before we wrap it up?
No, I just want to mention really quickly in the chat here, Miss T said that we should do I May Destroy You as a, for the show since Ted Lasso's not coming back right when we thought. And I love it, but no.
Miss T says, since there's no season 3 yet, you should cover it. Do you not see what just happened with Ted Lasso, which does not have a season 3 yet? That's the opposite of a reason to cover something.
Yeah.
No.
I May Destroy You is intense, and it's got some heavy, heavy themes, and I just don't know if I want to talk about those.
Fair.
But I do want everyone that's listening to go watch it, because it absolutely deserves to be watched. So
folks can commission it for me for Spoil Me if you're interested.
You could do that, because, I want you to watch it, and I want you to get paid to watch it. So, do that, you guys. Go commission it.
And speaking of commissions, everybody please go watch Jane the Virgin, which is just delightful. It's very funny show.
I need to watch that.
It's good time.
I can't believe it's funny. I was so sure
it's super
it wouldn't be
funny.
When that show premiered, I was like, this is nonsense, but it's a dumb idea. And I completely checked out of it. And now you're like, it's great. And I don't even know what is
And
up,
granted,
what is
I'm
down.
not that far into it. It may fall apart, but from what I hear, it does not. And even if it did, it feels like the kind of show where falling apart would have its own charm as well. So
I think I'm gonna watch some and listen along.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you, and until next time, we are doing the finale.
It happened so fast. Here we are.
Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
No, my hands won't be tied down, and I will not lay them down, 'cause I can finally see the truth. So simple but so clear, accepting your notion's depths were out of reach for me and you. If you're coming up for air, breathing in, you know I'll be there when you first begin. And when everybody's telling us we have no time, we'll prove them wrong.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.